Good evening, Clarion, and welcome to this special edition of CU Countdown NFL Draft Special here on CU TV, where we're going to give you everything that you need to know for the beginning of the NFL Draft, which begins on Thursday night. I'm your host, Matt Catrillo. Alongside me is my panel, Alex Kozora and Ian Hunter. Alex, I know this is your personal Christmas, so Merry Christmas, Alex.
Thank you. It is actually better than Christmas, the best gift you could ask for. Very excited. Glad to be here, Matt.
Same here, Alex, and Mr. Ian Hunter to my far left in his final draft show in his senior year. Ian, enjoy you here tonight.
I'm excited. I've been here 4 years, and every year we've done an NFL draft show, so this is probably the most extensive NFL draft show that we've had, so we're climbing up. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally excited, guys.
Yeah,
we're 48 hours away from the beginning of the NFL draft, which you can see on ESPN and NFL Network. I'm sure other stations are going to have it, so I'm excited for it. And in a moment, we're going to reveal to you, to start off, our top 5 prospects of this year's class. But first, guys, I want to give your overall take on the overall thoughts of this year's 2013 NFL draft class. So, Alex, we'll start with you on this one.
I'll be very quick about it, Matt. I think overall the skill positions are relatively weak. Wide receiver, running back, quarterback, but then you get into the trenches, your tackles, your defensive line. Across the board, defensive tackle and defensive end, extremely deep, top-heavy, and a lot of depth to it as well. So I think the trenches is where you'll get your top players at, and we'll discuss about that throughout the show.
That we will. And Ian, what are your overall thoughts of
My
this
overall
draft
thoughts,
class?
I really do mirror what Alex is saying. This is a draft where there's a lot of talent in your offensive and defensive lines, and I think there's also a lot of talent at the linebacker position, both inside and outside. And I'm really excited to see what rounds 2 and 3 hold for teams rather than the first round, which is a little bit, it's not quite as sexy as it has been in years previous.
So let's get back to our top 5. Guys, we've been waiting a long time for this, a lot of months of prepping and watching film and doing all of our scouting reports we got right in front of us here. So let's get to it. Alex, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who you got for your top 5?
Well, my top 5 big board, these are just the players that I've watched, but most of them are some of the top athletes. I start with number 1, Star Lotulelei, defensive tackle out of Utah, 311 pounds, can play like a 281 gap, or he can play like a 340 nose tackle. You see my big board there. I think he's the best player in this draft, could be the next Haloti Ngata. I think that highly of. Number 2, Luke Joeckel, Texas A&M, the offensive tackle, left tackle. And I think him and Eric Fisher are extremely similar, both guys. Good big frames. Still need to grow into them a little bit. Still a little lanky, but big frames that are very athletic in pass protection, can mirror, and good in the run game as well. I have Joeckel ahead of Fisher just by a little bit, just because maybe the competition just a little bit. The Oklahoma game Joeckel had in the bowl game really blew me away. So him at 2. And number 3, Dion Jordan, 6'6", outside linebacker, who could flip his hips like he's 5'11". It's remarkable. Never seen a guy that athletic and that fluid in his hips, and a dynamic pass rusher as well. And Jonathan Cooper, number 4, don't think he's going to go that high, but he's an offensive guard, plays on a cloud, extremely quick feet, great at trapping. I think he's better than Warmack by a little bit. I really like Jonathan Cooper.
Overall solid there, top 5 there, Alex. So, Ian, who do you got in your top 5?
My top 5 is a little bit similar. I just have a couple different places. I have Eric Fisher, number 1. Okay. I think he's the best tackle in this draft based on his ability to just run block. I think he's a better run blocker right now than Luke Joeckel. He's a fantastic pass protector. He'll take that bull rush and he'll laugh at it. He'll move you around. He might struggle a little bit with speed guys at the beginning of his career, but with some solid coaching, he has the athleticism to just work with that. He'll be fine. Luke Joeckel, I have number 2. The only reason I have him at number 2 is he didn't flash that dominance in the run game like I would have liked to have seen, but Luke Joeckel is one of those guys where he's going to systematically take you out of the play every time you're going to rush the passer. He shows that on nearly every inch of his game tape. Number 3, I have Sharif Floyd from Florida. Literally could not be blocked in some of his games. In his South Carolina tape, he was too quick, too powerful for the Gamecocks. He was an absolute constant backfield disruption, very quick hands, strong hands at that. He moves men around. I really like him at number 3. And at number 4, I have Star Lotulelei. He will be the next Haloti Ngata, as Alex said. I'm very certain about that. Put his USC tape on for maybe about 5 minutes, and you will, like, your jaw will hit the ground. Absolutely shocking at his amount of talent. I love what he can do. I really think he's going to be one of the top 5 picks in this draft. And then at number 5, it was a close one for me. I went with Dion Jordan at number 5. Just his ability to run at 6'6". One of the best athletes I think we've ever seen come out in the NFL draft based on his height, weight, speed, everything. Plays on a cloud like you talked about with Jonathan Cooper, but he just could be the most talented player in this draft.
3-down backer, so important today's NFL. You have to be able to play all 3 downs to be that high of a pick.
Now, you guys both have Star Lotulelei in your top 5, and actually, I don't have him in my top 5. I have him just right outside of the top 5, I think. I know he's got an unbelievable motor, don't get me wrong. I think he's got a signature swim move. You saw that in a couple of the games in this year, especially against BYU. But to me, overall, in a couple of games with Star, I didn't see him get off of blocks well in some cases. Now, obviously, you're not going to get off a block every time, but I saw it consistently enough where I think it's still somewhat of a problem. And people are saying that he can be in a 4-3 defense or a 3-4 defense. I think he'd be better fit in a 4-3 defense, because in a 3-4, as a nose tackle, you got to be able to get by guys sometimes in a double team. And I don't see that at all from him whatsoever, I guess, especially in a double team. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
You know, I think he is scheme versatile. I think he'd be a 1 tech and a 3-4. I think he'd be a 3 tech and a 4-3, be the nose tackle there. So I don't think I totally agree with you on that. I think he attracted double teams, even triple teams at times. He was that dominant. So, you know, as a nose tackle, I think he'd be fine. And, you know, you don't always have to get off blocks as a nose tackle. You're just trying to take on bodies. I think he was straight up dominant at time, had a big senior year, 11 tackles for loss, 5 sacks. Again, for a guy that's so big, too. He's, 3'11", but he looks so much bigger than that. It's just extremely dominant in every facet. And I think he's a good pass rusher, too. Not an elite. He's not going to be, obviously, the most dominant guy as a pass rusher. Not in the way, obviously, like, somebody, Sharif Floyd, for example. But
Sharif Floyd is a pure pass rusher.
Right. But I think he's one of the most dominant players. So I don't think I really agree with that.
I'm going to say I'm also going to disagree with you. I thought he was absolutely tremendous whenever he was playing in either that middle of the that 3-4 that Utah would employ, or even he would move around that defensive line as well. He can play on that 3-4 defensive end. He can play both techs in the 4-3. He's going to be a special player at the next level because he is so versatile. He's so athletic. Watch this guy play in space. He's dropped back before. You're never going to see guys like Casey Hampton drop back into space and make plays. Well, Star Lotulelei, he can do that, and that's incredible. I know USC didn't have the best year, but that was a talented roster that he went up against, and he dominated it. So Star Lotulelei is going to be a big-time player at the next level. And
remember, the medical concern is not a factor anymore. He was cleared of his medical issue.
Right, and that was going into the NFL draft, and he was tested for it, and he was fine. I'm going to give you my top 5 real quick before we go to our first commercial break. And so far, my top 5, first of all, I have Eric Fisher, the offensive tackle from Central Michigan. Really like what he can do. Textbook pass blocker, really excellent footwork. It's so fluid. It's better. It's like liquid water, I think his footwork is. Really such a bull rusher in the run game, and if you're versatile like that, any offensive lineman, you can get drafted easily. Second is Luke Joeckel. I think he really flaws better in the pass block than he does in run block. In pass block, he's very athletic. Again, textbook footwork, really has his hands in the right way, as does Eric Fisher. I really like his athleticism, the getting out into the flat, especially on screen passes. I think he's going to be a major factor in the top 2 picks, especially with a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, with a veteran quarterback in Alex Smith. That will go to what Andy Reid's style of offense is, a lot of quick passes, a lot of screen passes. Linemen are going to have to move, and Andy Reid loves his linemen. Also Jamal Charles as well. So I think he's going to be a major factor in that as well. Number 3, I have Ezekiel Ansah. I think he's going to be a extreme, one of the fastest defensive linemen, I think, in this draft. Number 4, I have Deion Jordan, another fast guy, versatile defensive end and outside linebacker. And rounding up my top 5, I have Tavon Austin, wide receiver from West Virginia. I think he's extremely electric, and I think he's going to make some NFL teams a good deep threat, or even at the slot. So coming up next, we're going to talk a little quarterback discussion. That's all coming up right here on CU Countdown. Don't go away.
At the Meadows, sweet treats are just an order away. With a wide variety of options and a friendly, informed staff, you can get just the thing you need to satisfy that craving.
We are open year-round, and our frozen custard is made fresh daily.
In a hurry? Don't fret. The Meadows has a convenient drive-thru for your busy days. The Meadows is located at 22671 Route 68 near the Clarion Mall.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom.
It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Have all your printing, copying, and promotional needs met at Pages, Clarion University's own printing and graphics express service. Open to faculty and students, Pages can print and design posters and vinyl banners to help promote your big event. Our state-of-the-art wide format printer allows you to get your items printed at lightning fast speed. All of your organization's promotional needs, from clothing and pens to keychains and mugs, can be easily and quickly made. With new machines, Pages is your one-stop shop for all of your quality printing and processing needs. Call us at 814-393-2679.
Welcome back to CU Countdown NFL Draft Special here on CU TV. Matt Catrillo here alongside Ian Hunter and Alex Kozora. Glad you be with us. Guys, let's get into another little quarterback talk now. This class has taken a lot of heat by all the draft experts out there. This guy makes bad decisions, guy that lacks accuracy. But overall, I think this quarterback class lacks what I call pizzazz. Guys like RG3, like we saw in last year's draft, Andrew Luck, guys that can show that wow factor, saying this guy can be an elite quarterback in the NFL. And to me, I just don't see that with any of these draft prospects here in this 2013 quarterback class. So, Ian, I'm going to start with you on this one. What are your overall thoughts, first of all, about this quarterback class? And is there anybody out there that can maybe come into and develop as that elite go-to guy at quarterback?
I think this is not a sexy draft class when it comes to quarterback. I think there's guys that can get the job done. It's not sexy, though. It's not Andrew Luck. It's not RG3. It's not Ryan Tannehill. It's not all those not Russell Wilson. It's not those kinds of guys. Here's my top guys when it comes to quarterbacks right now. These are guys that I've studied. E.J. Manuel I have as my #1 quarterback. I know it's different. A lot of guys have Geno Smith as their #1. My problem with Geno is that he's inconsistent on tape. There's throws that just wow you, but then there's other times where you look at him, you're like, Geno, what were you thinking? Against Texas, really had a tough time handling the blitz. Really had a tough time getting that ball out of his hands very quickly. So, and there were other problems too. But E.J. Manuel is the guy that I have as the #1 quarterback on my board, and here's the reason why. Tremendous athlete. He's going to remind you a lot of Cam Newton. Very fast. Ran a 4.5 at the combine. While that doesn't matter, the number doesn't matter. It matters that he showed up on tape with that kind of speed. Very accurate thrower. May not have the biggest arm in the world, but he was accurate in short to medium situations, which is all you can really ask for in today's NFL. He can make plays. He can have his he can throw into windows and have his wide receivers make plays. I think he's going to be the best player quarterback-wise out of this draft.
Yeah, I think he's certainly one of the top quarterbacks there, Ian. I think you mentioned a good arm, great footwork, good pocket presence, and good size. Very similar to Cam Newton's style of play. Very athletic, can throw the ball and zip it into those tight quarters of the field. So, Alex, look at your thoughts.
Like you said, there is no RG3, there is no Andrew Luck, but we have to be careful. We can't hold them to that standard either. That is extremely, I think, treacherous to do, to hold them to that standard of an RG3. Andrew Luck, those guys so rare to see. Geno Smith is my #1 quarterback on the board. They're not going to get a chance to look at E.J. Manuel, though I think it's an interesting thought, Ian. With Smith, you see flashes, though, of RG3. You see flashes of Luck, and you get my top 5 quarterbacks here. The deep ball he can really throw well. He can make any throw on the field. He's thrown the deep ball, thrown the corner out, thrown the stick, throw down the seam. But the issue with him is consistency. I think he's a half-field reader. I think he passed the ball under pressure. I think he's trouble getting off his first read. And I think overall, he makes some poor decisions and 30 fumbles, I think, in his career, too. So a bit reckless with the ball as well. That's the biggest thing with Geno Smith. How smart is he? Ryan Nassib, great velocity, probably the best velocity of anyone in this class, but some mechanical issues. The ball drops down on his hip. His back foot will leave too early. With Glennon, love the talent. 6'7", tallest quarterback in this class. Very good arm. Not elite, but a very good arm. When it all comes together, it looks very good, but very erratic. 11 turnovers in the 4 games that I saw. Extremely reckless. A gunslinger, Brett Favre-esque in terms of the gunslingerness. Matt Scott, didn't get a great look at him. Wanted to get a better look, but with the mobile quarterbacks, people love him. And then Tyler Bray, same thing with Glennon. Physical tools are there, but the mental side, the mistakes. He makes as many bad plays as he makes good ones. So this quarterback class, some guys you like, but no one's the complete package.
And you even have Ryan Nassib as your #2 guy. I have not even on my board.
That's the way
I
his
didn't
class
like
is.
him at all. I thought he was very inaccurate. I was not impressed by either his USC tape or his Rutgers tape. 2 pretty good defenses, and he's going to face, again, 32 teams all have pretty good defenses in the NFL. A lot of skill there. He didn't show good accuracy, missed a lot of throws. Didn't really like what I saw from Ryan Nassib. But that's the difference in this quarterback class is there's no one player that everyone's like, yeah, that's the guy. Not like that.
Exactly, and that's what I said coming into this block. There's not the one guy that completely wows you and that makes you project a projected #1 quarterback, or maybe you go top 5. We've seen what's happened with Geno Smith, thinking he's going to go possibly even #1, sometimes #4. He's been linked to the Eagles. He's been linked to the Chiefs. He's been linked to the Cardinals. He's been linked to the Jaguars. But now he's saying now he's going to drop back and go to the 2nd round. Now Ryan Nassib this week is projected maybe to go 8th to the Buffalo Bills following his head coach. So and from Syracuse. So it really.
I'd be shocked if that
I would be shocked as well. But you really just don't know. So I want to get your guys' thoughts though on what Geno Smith and Ryan Nassib, the talk of them have gone through the past couple of weeks here.
It's so tough to project them. I've even heard guys like Matt Barkley at 8, which I think would be crazy. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I think Geno's still going to go top 5. And I know that's kind of the minority at this point. Even some people are really gravitating towards Nassib. Or at least I think one quarterback's going to go top 5 because everyone loves to value quarterbacks. The value is so much higher. It's all it takes is one team to fall in love that needs a quarterback. And there are certainly many that need it in the top 5, top 10. You look at Oakland, you look at Jacksonville and teams like that. So I think one of them's going to go high. They always do.
Ian, what do you think?
I think Matt Barkley might go higher than he really should. I think he's a 2nd or 3rd round kind of guy. I don't think that he showed enough to me on tape this past year. He really, really struggled. We're seeing his tape here that he coming back from that shoulder injury he suffered against UCLA. Just did not have the season that he wanted. Showed a lot of flaws in his game. If you throw on the Stanford tape, at the beginning of the game, he looks very, very strong. And then after he takes a couple of hits, his skill literally cuts in half. The zip on his ball, the ball dies about 10 yards after it leaves his hand. You can't have that in the NFL. A lot of bad accuracy, forced throws, lack of arm strength. Matt Barkley is a guy that some scouts I've heard have called him, he's a backup quarterback at best. Now I think that might be pushing a little bit. I think that he has some skill, but I don't see him really being
And just real quick, I think that's a problem with a lot of quarterbacks in this draft. Are they anticipatory throws? Can they throw to open spots, or do they throw to open receivers? That's another issue with Geno Smith. He throws to open receivers, not open spots, and you have to have that in today's NFL. You have to be able to throw to open spots and be able to lead receivers. He struggles with that.
You have to throw wide receivers open in the NFL.
Now, one other quarterback we didn't mention, guys, real quick, is quarterback from Arkansas, Tyler Wilson. I think he's a guy that is extremely tough. He took a lot of hits when his time at Arkansas. Obviously had a lot of the issues with head coach and Bobby Petrino, and with his offensive coordinator, was in and out. Didn't have really a stable coaching staff. So what are your quick thoughts on him?
I haven't seen a lot of Wilson, so I'll defer to Ian.
I watched Wilson today. Liked him a lot. 2nd best quarterback in this draft, I think. Really tough guy. He's a pocket guy. He's not going to be running outside the pocket, but I think he's the #2 guy.
So when we come back here on CU Countdown, we're going to talk about some players that have caused some controversy. That and more coming up. Stay tuned here on CU TV.
Looking for a good time, it's gotta be Wasteland Live.
And good evening, Clarendon. Welcome back to CU Countdown, NFL Draft Edition here on CU TV. I'm Matt Catrillo. Ian Hunter and Alex Kozora are alongside with me. Hope you're enjoying the upcoming NFL Draft Week as much as we are in anticipation of this weekend. Now, guys, let's get into some players that have made headlines off the field, starting with Manti Te'o. As we all know, by now, a girlfriend hoax, and the big question to me is, what is going to be his mindset You know, he's saying he's gone over it. You know, he can laugh at himself for it for the most part, but can he handle guys ragging on him about it or asking him about it in the locker room?
You know, I know that's a point that's been brought up a lot, Matt, but I'm not sure how much of a point really it's going to matter in the NFL. I think guys will just move on and forget about it because it's not the important issue. I think I'm just going to base it strictly off his tape, though again, I realize that issue lingers. But I think on tape he's probably an early second-rounder. Not a great athlete. He doesn't have a lot of great range. He isn't good sideline to sideline, but he's a tough guy. Two-down thumper at worst. I think the floor is relatively low on him. Can get off blocks. Does a nice job scraping, get off linemen, and find the ball carrier and attack it and wrap up. Extremely reliable tackler and still a really good leader throughout this past year at Notre Dame. So I think, you know, people will move on and know that Te'o, you know, is a really good football player. Not a great, not an elite, not a top 10 guy like some projected, but really good.
Ian, what do you think?
I think he's a fantastic football player. I think he's a great leader, and he has the ability, which a lot of people overlook, is that he makes other people around him better. And that's so important in the NFL. That's why Tom Brady's a great quarterback. That's why Ray Lewis was one of the greatest linebackers ever.
That's right.
He made people around him much better players. And Manti Te'o did that with Notre Dame's defense this year. Can we name any other player from Notre Dame's defense this year? No.
I mean, Matt can. He's a Notre Dame fan.
But, you know,
I get your point. I get your point.
There's no marquee player from that team. It was Manti Te'o. That was his team, tackling machine. Excellent football player. May not be the fastest guy, but he puts himself in good positions on the field. Yeah, sure, does he need to get better at shedding blocks? Sure he does. But is he a guy that's going to attack that head on like he has this entire draft process?
No doubt.
Absolutely. I like Manti Te'o. I think he's a first-round pick. I think he's going to go to the, I believe the Vikings at 23.
I would agree with that also.
I would be shocked if he fell past them. Either that or Baltimore. He's not going to fall past Baltimore.
He'd be a great fit there, too. I think he'd be a great fit with the Steelers, but we can get into that a little bit later on. But, guys, here's my thing with Manti Te'o. It seems after the Alabama game when Notre Dame lost in the championship game,
Chance Warmack single-handedly destroyed his draft stock for a little bit there.
Well, that's the point I'm alluding to is a lot of people looked at that tape saying, you know, Alabama was considered, you know, the big boys and a ton of NFL talent. Obviously, we've seen that in years past and even up to this year for that matter. And a lot of people are taking that game single-handedly and saying maybe this guy can play in the NFL considering all the talent that Alabama has. So what are your thoughts on that?
You know, just real quick, I'm not as bad of a game as it was. I'm not going to let one game, you know, totally change my mindset.
Exactly, that's why I
don't let one game
too.
tell the story. I think, again, really smart player, takes really good angles to the ball, plays inside out like you're taught. So I'm not going to let that game affect me too much. I'll look at the whole picture.
Ian?
You know, once you ask Jarvis Jones what it was like playing against Alabama, he didn't look that great against Alabama either.
True.
So, and he's still considered a first-round pick. You know, Mingo is still considered a first-round pick. He struggled against Alabama. I think it's because Alabama was just that darn good. That's why people struggled against him.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
You know, if you watch that tape, Te'o had his own defensive line shoved into him multiple times coming off the ball.
Exactly.
It's hard to match up with that kind of talent, no matter what you're trying to do. No matter how great of an inside linebacker you are. I don't care if it's Dick Butkus. If there's a great offensive line in front of you, when you have subpar defensive line talent on your own team, you're not going to have a good day. That's the way it works. Yeah, Manti Te'o is a great football player. He was in the Heisman Trophy race for a reason.
Exactly. And he finished second for a reason, too, but also a reason why Alabama has won 3 of the last 4 championships in college football. Moving on now to DJ Hayden, who suffered a life-threatening injury during practice after taking a freak hit and tore a large vein called the inferior vena cava, which carries the blood from lower half of the body to your heart. So he was cleared medically, though. But what kind of impact can he make in the NFL?
You know, it was such a scary and such a rare injury. That's what makes him kind of controversial, the medical side of it, the medical scare. But he's fully healed now. He worked out the combine, or not the combine, with a pro day, and did fine there. So
ran a 4.3 at that pro day.
Yeah, so I'm not concerned with him. People love him on tape. It's a relatively weak quarterback class, or cornerback class, excuse me. So I'm not that concerned with him. He's moved on from it.
Ian, what do you think?
I think he could be, you know, that speed that he plays with at 5 foot. He's about 5'11", rolls in at about 183 pounds.
191.
Okay, I saw 183, but either way, he's going to play in that 180 to 190 kind of range, and I like that. I think he can be a pretty good player at the next level.
Yeah, I think so too. This is a guy that has excellent footwork. He Plays great tight coverage, which I really love. Plays the ball well. He's got a nose for it. I think he's almost like an Asante Samuel. He still has to work on his tackling a little bit.
So does Asante Samuel.
That's exactly right. So I think they're very similar styles of play, especially in tight coverage. Next, we're going to move on to Tyrann Mathieu, quarterback from LSU, who was dismissed from LSU in August of 2012 for multiple violations of team rules, now working through treatment for substance abuse in Houston. But hey, on a plus side, he did pass the test at the combine, so that is good. And
1 for 11 is not bad.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, clearly he's a mess off the field, but on the field, we obviously know what he can do. He's an absolute game changer, has a ton of speed. So get your thoughts on this first.
My problem is that he's 5'9". That's going to be tough to match up with against, in the next level. So even if you're a slot guy, 5'9" is a hard it's a hard life to live at 5'9" in the NFL.
That's true.
Just real quick, I know a lot of people already have their thoughts already about Tyrann Mathieu. Not going to change at this point. I think he's going to be a second-round pick, a mid-second rounder. Someone's going to take a flyer on him. Someone always thinks they can change him.
So I think I totally disagree about that. I think he'll be. I think at best he's a 4th-round pick, just because of all his off-the-field issues. It's always a constant. And quickly before we go to break, Marcus Lattimore, running back from South Carolina. We know what happened to him. Freak knee injury against the Tennessee Volunteers in a conference game. Took a hard hit right from a guy's helmet to his knee. And quick thoughts on that, see if he can even recover from the NFL.
I just don't know if he can. It's a great story. I hope for the best, Matt, but just how shredded his knee was, I just don't know if he can come back from that. That's just so tough. Back-to-back years with a below knee, I don't know if he can.
Ian, go ahead.
2 different knees. Again, one of the worst injuries I've ever seen. But the way he was running at his pro day, the things that he was able to do just a few months removed from that, he was running pretty good. And I was sitting there going, wow, can we have an Adrian Peterson 2? We might. And I think it might take me a whole, like a red shirt first year as a pro. But next year, watch, I think Marcus Lattimore will be just fine.
So coming up next is our Pennsylvania football segment. We're going to tell you what the Steelers should do and what the Eagles should do and all their draft needs. That and more coming up on CU Countdown NFL Draft Edition.
Hey, I'm Anderson Cooper. As a parent, you want to make sure that your child knows how to deal with bullying when they see it happening. And chances are they want to help, but they don't really know how. I'll teach them that the best thing to do is calmly walk away, find a teacher or other adult, and speak up. And do your part. Be that adult they can talk to and trust will listen. Join me to help stop bullying. Go to stopbullying.gov to find out more.
Can't find your one-of-a-kind ingredient? Looking to challenge your appetite with exotic flavor? Your search ends at 6th & Main's unique array of groceries and ingredients. Specializing in the not-so-widely available, 6th & Main is Clarion's supplier of the striking tastes that shape a stylish palate. With their varied styles and unmatched selection, 6th & Main has got the taste you have only dreamt about. Let your taste run wild at 6th & Main.
I got no pulse. We're losing him.
Charging. He's in V-Fit.
Shock him. Drives it road all the time. Just had a few drinks. Just can't be happening.
Are we clear?
Clear. You just buzzed. Just buzzed? You didn't tell us that, sir. You're right. This isn't happening. He'll be fine.
I feel good.
Really? No, not really.
Buzz driving.
Clear.
Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal.
Shock him.
Welcome back to CU Countdown here on CU TV. I'm your host, Matt Catrillo. Now we're heading to our Pennsylvania football segment, and we're going to start with the Pittsburgh Steelers first. And these guys next to me, obviously, probably the biggest Steeler fans in Clarion. And Alex Kozora, Ian Hunter joining me once again. And guys, what are your first thoughts on what the Steelers got to do going into the draft?
I'll lead things off here, Matt. I think there's a lot of needs for this team, which is unfortunate for this year. It's been a rough offseason. Here's the graphic of it here. Running back, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, wide receiver, tight end. Again, losing Mike Wallace, the Heath Miller injury, losing Rashard Mendenhall in free agency, no true number 1 back. Inside linebacker, not a Larry Foote fan, and outside linebacker, obviously releasing James Harrison. My projection, this was mine, not Ian, so we'll get your thoughts. I went with Jarvis Jones, outside linebacker out of Georgia. Not going to wow you on tape. I'm a little mixed on him still. Doesn't have a great first step. It's just average, but this guy is a flat-out playmaker. I put on the Tennessee game, and you'll see that. He's strong against the run. He holds his own. You have to be good against the run to be in the Dick LeBeau defense. So I'm a big fan of Jarvis Jones. I think ultimately he's going to be able to translate to the next level.
Ian, what are your thoughts?
I think Jarvis Jones can play at absolutely any linebacker position, 4-3-3-4. I think he's that good of a player. But here's my first-round projection. It's going to be between 2 players. I don't think Jarvis Jones is one of them. I think it's going to be between Tyler Eifert, depending on where he goes, and Eddie Lacy. Okay. No one's talked about Eddie Lacy yet. Everyone keeps saying no first round running back this year. I think that's totally false. I think once you get to teams like Pittsburgh, Green Bay, running backs are going to start coming into the conversation. Eddie Lacy's the cream of the crop, in my opinion. Great player at Alabama, played behind that great offensive line, so that might skew his numbers a little bit, but this guy is a flat-out running back. Big guy, 230 pounds, a chiseled 230 pounds. He's not a fat guy, 230 pounds, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic player. I think it's between Tyler Eifert and Eddie Lacy. My pick I would like to see would be Tyler Eifert.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great fit, Ian, and with the Steelers and Tyler Eifert. Again, need a tight end because we don't know about Heath Miller's status for next year. But again, he's very versatile. Notre Dame put him in the slot, put him to the outside, especially on the goal line, throw the ball up to him like a tall wide receiver, kind of like a Plexico Burress back in his heyday with the New York Giants. Or you can go right down the middle to him. I think either way, he'd be a great fit for the Steelers.
And two tight end offenses are working pretty well in the NFL right now.
Now we're going to shift gears to the other side of the state, and that being the Philadelphia Eagles. First, starting with news that broke today, this afternoon, ESPN's Adam Schefter and Sal Paolantonio reporting that Eagles GM Howie Roseman has talked to at least two NFL GMs about trading the Eagles' number 4 overall pick. Now, guys, first of all, I'm not a fan of this. And I think for one reason, you're at number 4 for a reason. The Eagles were 4-12 last year, absolutely horrendous. You saw in the graphic there of how many needs that they need right now for this team. And guys are projected to go top 5 for a reason. It means they're pretty good. So I think you got to take what's best on the board and go from there. But what are your thoughts, quick, on that?
I'm fine with trading down. I think usually you have quality versus quantity. I think you can get both here. If you have a guy that you like similar at like 12 or 13 that you think you can get there as a guy you would take it for, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with trading down if that's what you want to do. Explore all options. Have an open mind.
I think they will trade down if Lane Johnson is still available at number 4. I think if Lane Johnson is gone by number 3, then Philadelphia will choose at number 4. But I do think if Lane Johnson's still there, then teams like Arizona and San Diego will try to come in and take that pick. And I think Philadelphia will be smart to go down. Then you can get a player that you need, like a Chance Warmack, Jonathan Cooper. You can even look at guys like E.J. Manuel, which has been linked to Philadelphia.
He has been.
So, I think E.J. Manuel is going to be a Philadelphia Eagle next year. Whether they get him in the middle of the first round or at the end of the first round, I think E.J. Manuel is going to Philadelphia next year, and I think this is when it happens right now.
Yeah, I think it's almost pretty certain that E.J. Manuel is going to go. I think he might be going in the second round, but again, it'll depend on what the Eagles do. I don't know. I just think that they got to stay where they are, and I think there's some talks that Eric Fisher might move down if Jocko goes number 1 to the Chiefs. And Andy Reid's been a big fan of his, but actually there's some talk now that the Chiefs are even thinking about going down. So who knows what'll happen? But
they talked to Sharif Floyd today too. So there's
exactly.
no clear number 1.
Yeah, a lot of smoke screens there for the draft, so I have to be careful of that.
And you saw my overall pick. I think it's going to be Deion Jordan. I think the Eagles can still use some shots at outside linebackers. I ultimately think that's where he belongs. He's great as a defensive end, but the Eagles already have some guys there that can play defensive end, but also can play outside linebacker. So I think he'd be a good fit. You also have the Oregon factor with new head coach Chip Kelly coming into the mix. But I think a guy that I think would be an awesome fit, too, for the Eagles is Ezekiel Ansah, the defensive end outside linebacker from BYU. This guy, as I mentioned before, has tremendous speed. He was number 3 on my top 5 board, big board in the first block. Like I said, tremendous speed. He's such a probably the more versatile defensive lineman I've seen in this draft. He can go in the 1 gap, the 2 gap, line up in the outside, go in the 2-point or 3-point stance. He's a raw talent. That means you can put him where you think he'd fit best. I've seen him go against double and triple teams and still get to the quarterback in some cases. So I think that's a major factor. So I think you can probably even line him up, although he'd have to build a little bit on the defensive tackle and a nose tackle, something that is also a big need for the Eagles.
My thing with Ansah, though, as great as a year as he had, Matt, he's just so raw. Plays too tall, does not have a repertoire, does not have any counter moves. You can't just be a pure speed guy at the next level. You have to be able to develop a repertoire and counter moves. Otherwise, tackles are going to eat you alive because they're the big boys. They've seen it before. They've seen speed rushers. So that's my thing with Ansah.
Exactly, too. But
number 4,
he has a very good swim move and a very good spin move also. So I think if he adds that in there as well, which I think he will, that'll be a major factor also.
If they stay at number 4, don't be surprised if Star Lotulelei goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. The new 3-4 system, they don't have a nose tackle.
That is true. Up next, we're talking about offensive linemen. I know these guys are excited. Me too, because I used to play offensive line. We can get into that in a little bit. Keep it right here on CU TV. This is CU Countdown, NFL Draft Edition.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born, and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Longing for a unique taste and a relaxed atmosphere? Look no further than 6th and Main Marketplace in downtown Clarion. With a menu to satisfy a chic palate, 6th and Main has a taste of the Strip District without the long trip home. Accompanying the food is a complement of gourmet sodas and ice creams, a fully stocked deli, delicious breads, and delectable desserts. 6th and Main offers dine-in service with a relaxed atmosphere, which will leave a distinct impression.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you were really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
Welcome back to CU Countdown, NFL Draft Special here on CU TV. I'm your host, Matt Catrillo, and now we're talking about offensive linemen. Now, guys, this is a very solid class, as we talked about beforehand. Multiple guys that are obviously NFL caliber that teams can build their offense around. Obviously, we know the top 3, and let's get into them first, guys. Alex Kozora, Ian Hunter joining me here on CU Countdown, that being Eric Fisher, Luke Joeckel, and Lane Johnson.
You can go first.
Ian, you go first.
Well, we've talked about Joeckel and Fisher extensively. Let's talk a little about Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson, very, 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 very raw. Started out as a defensive lineman, then went to quarterback, sorry.
Yeah,
started as quarterback,
That's right.
then to D lineman, then to tight end, or some way he played
cool.
in all those positions before he finally found tackle. I think he's a better right tackle than he is a left tackle. Has the athleticism to play left tackle, but I thought overall his tape suggests that he plays better at right tackle. So raw, so inexperienced in his position, but once he finds his position, once he gets some solid NFL coaching, this could be quite the player at left tackle. So he has the talent. A lot of people like him. He's a good player. I really like him. Very, very raw, like I said. He's not as good as Joeckel or Fisher, but he's a good player.
You know, we talk about Joeckel, we talk about Fisher. We know they're big athletic guys, 34+ inch arms. Guys are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". Guys are, extremely athletic, can mirror, understand leverage, very smart, can pick up stunts. We know all that. So let's talk more about Lane Johnson. And I agree with you, Ian. He is a guy that's very raw. But again, just 2 years able to practice his craft playing offensive line. He was a right tackle his first year. Then they went moving to left tackle this past year, and he excelled there. He's a heck of an athlete. Again, quarterback, tight end, defensive end was the progression of positions that he played. And then he's just going to continue to grow. It's not going to be a linear progression. It's going to be exponentially because he's going to get better and better as he's able to really spend time to hone his craft and get better at left tackle. And he could go top 5 right now, even as high as number 4 to the Eagles.
Yeah, I think
it'd be surprised if he went 3, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised with that either. I really like Lane Johnson, too. Again, he is a raw talent, like you guys said. The one thing I think he needs to work on, though, is his blocking down the flat. Obviously not as athletic as Eric Fisher and Luke Joeckel are, but I think the one thing is overall this blocking is very sloppy coming out on the flat. His hands aren't exactly on the inside part where you want him to kind of drive your guy out of the play. So I think he needs to work on that the most. But I think in his pass blocking, I think he's got textbook footwork as Fisher and Joeckel as well. Run block, I think he's a good bull rusher. Obviously can get better there with the hands going inside, but I really like all 3 of these tackles so far in this draft.
Just 2 quick things specifically for Johnson is his legs will go dead in pass protection. He needs to keep them moving, and he does have a tendency to double over a bit at the waist. He's a bit of a waist bender, but things you can correct with teaching.
I think he's a zone blocking kind of guy. If you can put him in a zone blocking scheme, he will excel because that gives him the ability to move. And I know you said that you didn't think he was as athletic as Fisher or Joeckel. I think he's more athletic than those guys overall.
That's fair enough.
I think he can run better than those guys. Is he as good as an offensive lineman as those 2? Absolutely not at this point.
So, guys, how about some guard talk? And now Ian is ready for this segment. He's been ready for a long time. Let's get into it. Well, I think we're all in agreement here that the top 2 guards in this draft is Jonathan Cooper, offensive guard from UNC, and Chance Warmack, the offensive guard from Alabama. Ian, we're going to start with you on this one because I know you're a huge Chance Warmack fan, so I probably know who you're going to go with here. but I'll start with you on this anyway. I know you like both guys.
I've liked both guys, and earlier today I said Jonathan Cooper was the best. But then I went back and watched more tape, and then I decided that Chance Warmack was the best. It's so hard to differentiate between who's better because they're two different players. They dominate in two totally different ways. Chance Warmack, whenever his football career ends, just strap a bulldozer on this guy, and he'll be fine in the construction business. It is a bulldozer of a man. Runs over guys. Like specifically, I say he's surprisingly athletic for a big man. I call him a bulldozer in my scouting report. Once he gets his hands on you, it's over. Plays so violently. Single-handedly destroyed Manti Te'o's draft stock. Gets such a great push off the line. But Jonathan Cooper's no slouch either. He can run. He can block with you. And he'll fight with you, Jonathan Cooper. I really like what he can bring. Good hands. Plays on a cloud, like Alex said earlier. I really like Jonathan Cooper as well. But Chance Warmack, I think, is the cream of the crop.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about Chance Warmack, Ian. But I think Jonathan Cooper is a little bit of a sleeper. Might be giving away something later on the show. We go underrated, overrated. But Alex, go ahead.
You know, you talk about Warmack, so I'll talk about Cooper now. Again, Cooper is my top guy. Extremely quick feet, great burst off line, great on trap blocks. He might not be the best run blocker in the world, but he can play in a power scheme because he's a good trap blocker. Very athletic, can mirror in pass protection, does really well in space. So I'm a big fan of Jonathan Cooper. I have him higher than Chance Warmack.
Yeah, I think, like I said, both are going to be really good. As like in the offensive guards, guys you can build around. All five of these guys we've talked about, certainly guys to look at.
Don't forget about Taron Armstead too. Taron Armstead, the kid from
Arkansas
Pine Bluff. Fantastic athlete, ran like a 4.6, 4.7 at the NFL Combine. You think, oh, whatever, it's just the Combine. Well, guess what? It shows up on tape. This is a tremendous athlete playing tackle. I think once he gets in the NFL weight room and gets some NFL coaching, he's going to be a good player.
Another waist bender that's going to need some coaching, though.
Absolutely no doubt to look at all these guys as the NFL Draft unfolds beginning Thursday night. You can see it on ESPN and NFL Network. Now, coming up after the break, what are some players that are overrated and underrated? Find out next here on CU Countdown NFL Draft Special.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
The party's happening at Clarion's newest venue, Wasteland Live, off of East Main Street, Clarion. They have it all from live bands to drinks and food. With most nights not requiring a cover, drink specials are always a deal. Entertainment abounds with live band karaoke, 2 pool tables, a large dance floor, and more. The atmosphere is just as bold as the acts on stage and the dancers on the floor. If you're looking for a good time, it's gotta be Wasteland Live.
So, I got this new family, and I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy all day long. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, and she even talks to it. She talks to that more than she talks to him. What's up, bro? Nice shirt. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
Welcome back to CU Countdown here on CU TV. Matt Catrillo here with you. Alongside me is Ian Hunter and Alex Kozora. We're getting into now underrated and overrated. Who are those players? So, Alex, we'll start with you first on this one. First, let's go underrated.
With the underrated, I have 3 players. We'll see the graphic here in a second, actually right now. One that is getting no love is Colton Chappell, a quarterback out of Harvard. Just got 1 game on him against Princeton, but I was really blown away. It doesn't, not much to look at 6'1", 190, but accuracy was top-notch too. Some beautiful corner routes, consistent, very productive in his 1-year starting experience. I really like this kid. No one's going to really talk about him, but I think he could be a steal, 7th-round priority free agent is what we're talking. David Bakhtiari, an offensive tackle out of Colorado. Guys that play with Colorado didn't get a lot of publicity because they were a really bad team, but extremely athletic left tackle who seems like a really good guy, a throwback lineman. Got a chance to interview him over the summer, got to learn a little bit from Joe Staley, the 49ers tackle. I'm a really athletic kid. I'm a big fan of him. And then Alex Okafor, another defensive end, compare him to Andre Branch from last year. Really just a great pass rusher. Extremely athletic, very fluid, tough to cut, coordinated, balanced player who gets the job done. His last bowl game had 4.5 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss, was MVP. Great job by Alex Okafor.
Yeah, absolutely there. Ian, what do you think?
I went to the SEC for my underrated player. I went Kevin Minter, the linebacker, inside linebacker for LSU. Here's why he's underrated, because there are a couple of guys that do have him number 1 as their inside linebacker, but he's only 5'11", but he weighs 246 pounds. He has long arms. He is going to play a little bit like some guy who just retired named Ray Lewis. Very fast, very athletic. LSU played him all over the field. He's a guy that can move offensive linemen because he is so strong and is so stout. Play a little bit, I know I just said Ray Lewis, but think of James Harrison when he moves offensive tackles. That's what Kevin Minter can bring to the table. Big time guy. I think you can get him in the 2nd or 3rd round. Could be a big time player at the next level. I really like Kevin Minter. Going to be a good player, I think, at the next level. Even though he's short, doesn't matter. Short's okay.
What you do with it?
That's true. And guys that I have for first my underrated, I actually think, as I kind of alluded to this in the last block with the offensive lineman, I got Jonathan Cooper in there. Not a lot of people are talking about him. He's in a small school and at UNC, for at least for football, at least. A guy that can get out in the flat and very athletic, very good in the pass blocking, very good run block. We compared him obviously to Chance Warmack, so I think he might be an underrated player. My overrated player, just because I just want to rip Tom McShay for the most part. Alex, I know, would love me on this one. He had, as we mentioned during the quarterback, he had Ryan Nassib going possibly as high as 8th to the Buffalo Bills, which would make sense to go to his former coach at Syracuse, Doug Marrone. But guys, obviously they can't have. I would be totally baffled. I think Ian said the same thing if he went 8. I mean, again, we talked about this before. A guy who completely lacks accuracy or is very inconsistent in that. A guy that can't stick in there and make the tight throws. A guy that has horrible decision making. I just can't see him going 8 right now.
I think 8's a little high, but we'll see. Again, guys like Locker Ponder have gone higher than we thought, so we'll see what happens there. We'll go to the overrated now, Matt, with my overrated players. You didn't like Nassib. A couple of mine, as you see on the screen now, Demontre Moore, defensive man at Texas A&M. His stock has fallen some. I think he's an above-average athlete, but not elite, not like an Onsalt, not like a Deion Jordan, and has no repertoire. Is bad against the run. I think it's more of a product of Texas A&M's scheme that was very stunt and blitz-heavy. They really got him open, and a product of a lot of his sacks. Moving on now with a guy like Sheldon Richardson. I think he might not be a bust, but he's a one-dimensional one-gapper. You have to use him right. He can't two-gap, bad against the run. And Matt Barkley, I'm not a fan. Yes, he's accurate. He might be okay in the West Coast, but he's a half-field reader. He can't read defenses, can't go through his progressions, locks onto his first target, and has an average arm. So the mental isn't there, the physical isn't there, the talent isn't there.
Yeah, I totally agree about Matt Barkley there. And any quarterback in the NFL, you have to be able to make multiple reads and being able to adjust on the fly, and you totally don't see that from Matt Barkley whatsoever. Ian, what are your overrated players?
You guys mentioned a couple of them already. I already talked about Ryan Nassib, who I talked about earlier in the show. I'm really not a fan. If you guys didn't pick up on that, not a fan. Very inaccurate player. Also, I did talk about, Alex, you had talked about Sheldon Richardson. Was completely washed out against Alabama. Not a very good player. One-dimensional, as you said, the one-gapper. Didn't make any significant plays for me. I think a very, very overrated talent. And then finally, I went with, I'm going to butcher this name, but Bajoran Warner from Florida State. Did not see effort from him in his game tape, especially against Miami. Wouldn't take tackles head-on. Wouldn't attack in the run game. Couldn't set the edge. And it wasn't that the talent's not there. It was that the effort wasn't there. That's a big-time problem for a guy who many people think is a first-round pick. I don't think so. I think he's going to be a washout here.
I actually like his counterpart better in Tank Carradine. I think the torn ACL is scaring some people, but put up the tape on before he tore his ACL. Fantastic athlete.
Yeah, he was a guy that was considered probably a top 15 pick before he turned.
And he has a full repertoire, which is some of these rush backers struggle with, which are their speed guys. Tank Carradine's the full back.
That's a guy that you might see the Steelers pick up later in the draft.
True.
Well, underrated or overrated, it's always the great debate, and we'll see where everybody lies when the NFL draft kicks off on Thursday night. We're less than 48 hours away. I know we're all very excited. We're headed to our final commercial break, and we're going to reveal who's going where and our top 5 projected picks. That's coming up right here on CU Countdown NFL Draft Special.
One of the best deals in town is now even better with your My Sheets card. From food to gas, you save on nearly everything at Sheets, and the deals don't stop there. Go online and find a full complement to the My Sheets card where you can get access to exclusive deals that are redeemable at all Sheets locations. Sign up is quick and easy, and the card also allows you to pay after you pump. Don't delay, head to the Clarion Sheets on East Main Street and get your My Sheets card today.
2 outs with a runner on first base. Now the big guy comes up to bat, hitting .342 with 92 RBIs and 36 homers.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
TV, Matt Catrillo here with you. Alongside me is Ian Hunter and Alex Kozora. Guys, I'm excited. It's time to give our projected top 5 picks. Who's going where, to which NFL team, or is NFL team going to trade up and get a certain guy? So let's get into it right now. Alex, we'll start with you on your top 5.
You know, it's so tough to try to project this, Matt. I mean, there's so many different combinations. It's really what makes this draft so interesting. But my top 5 in order, I'll start with number 1 here, Kansas City, Luke Joeckel, the tackle out of Texas A&M. I know there's a lot of question between him and Eric Fisher, excuse me. But number 2, Ziggy Ansah to Jacksonville. They need pass rush. They've not had pass rush in the last couple of years. Dave Caldwell, his first move is Ziggy Ansah. Number 3, with Oakland, Star Lotulelei, defensive tackle at Utah. I raved about him earlier. I think he's the next Nada. I know they tried to put a lot of money into Tommy Kelly. That didn't work out. He's now gone. I think he's going to be able to give them that inside presence they so desperately need. Number 4, D. Milner. I know his stock might be dropping a little bit because of the shoulder injury, but Philadelphia needs a cornerback, losing DRC, releasing Nnamdi Asomugha, so they really need help there. And then number 5, Detroit, they pick up Eric Fisher. Jeff Backus, he retired this past offseason, so they need to fill at left tackle. I think Eric Fisher can start from day 1.
Interesting top 5 there, Alex. Ian, what do you think?
My top 5 is I have Eric Fisher going first overall to the
Really?
Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason I say that is if you look at guys like Jamal Charles, who needs a good running tackle, and he didn't really have that this year. I think Fisher immediately upgrades that offensive line, especially when it comes to run blocking, because that's that team's forte. That's their big thing. They can run the football. Number 2, I have Luke Joeckel going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have number 3, Sharif Floyd going to the Raiders for the reasons you said, except I just have Sharif Floyd going there. Number 4, I have Star Lotulelei going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Matt, they're starting a new 3-4 defense.
I'd still be okay with it. You know, obviously, I think what I think about him, but
you said Deion Jordan. Here's why I think I think Deion Jordan's a good player. But you have Vinny Curry. You just drafted last year. Can play outside linebacker for you. And then 5, I have Ezekiel Ansah going to Detroit. Jim Schwartz has had interest since the Combine and even since the Senior Bowl in picking up Ezekiel Ansah. So I think he finally gets his wish.
Yeah.
And really, the Detroit Lions need some pass rush help after losing some Averill and
Averill was the big one.
Yeah, that they do for sure. I agree on that one for the Lions. So here we go to my top 5 to see who's going where in this year's draft. First, we're going to, for the overall pick to the Kansas City Chiefs, I think it's going to be Luke Joeckel. Honestly, I really think that he'll be a great fit with what Andy Reid is going to bring to that offense in Kansas City. Again, a guy that loves to have screen passes, and Luke Joeckel is a guy that can get on the flat. Alex, you know how much I love the screen passes.
You love the screen passes,
so I think he's going to be a great fit with the Chiefs. Second, I actually think Eric Fisher's they're going to go 1-2. Joeckel and Fisher. I just think Jacksonville, obviously, that's a horrendous team right now. They can pretty much take anybody on that board, and that would make them 100 times better. True. But I think offensive line is a good spot for them to start and try and rebuild that offense around, rather. So I think that's where he goes. 3, I have Ziggy Ansah going to the Raiders. The Raiders can use some outside linebacker help as well. He can even be a good fit on defensive end. You know, that's been an Achilles heel for the Raiders defense, so I think he'll go there to Oakland. Number 4, as I mentioned in the Eagles-Steelers segment, I have Deion Jordan going 4. You know, I can see Star Lotulelei going. I can see Ziggy Ansah going. I think if Eric Fisher drops, or if any of the offensive tackles drop, I think the Eagles can grab one of them, possibly, as I think they should. Because, like I said before, anybody that needs an offensive line to kind of restructure their offense around, kind of like where the Eagles are in right now, you got to take them there. You know, a lot of different options for the Eagles there, but I just think with the Oregon factor and the fact that the Eagles could need some depth at the linebacker position, not so much defensive end, like guys you mentioned, like Vinny Curry, Trent Cole, Even Fletcher Cox, we'll see where they put him. Any of those guys, he'd be a good fit either or for just his simple versatility. And just because Detroit always likes to get those pass rushers, I think or even stout defensive linemen, I think Star Lotulelei goes number 5 to the Detroit Lions.
Now, Lotulelei was interesting because I know the Detroit defensive tackle they're okay on, but value would make sense.
Exactly.
In my mind. Okay, yeah, very interesting.
Because in the top 5, as we all know, you get what's best on the board. And I think Dev is always very key in the NFL, especially with injuries nowadays. I think they're going to see that and take Lotulelei.
You already have Ndamukong Suh and
Nick Farrell.
Yeah.
That would be.
I'd be shocked.
You would have a 1-2-3 punch right there.
Okay.
What a rotation that would be for already a ferocious defensive line for the Lions, no doubt.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
So we're towards the end of the show, guys, and some final thoughts on what we could see here in the NFL draft. Ian, we'll start with you, as it is your final segment of your final draft show.
It is the final segment of my final draft show. I'm going to go to the tight end position. I've talked about offensive line a lot today. I'm going to go back to Tyler Eifert. We all know about his receiving ability, but let's talk a little bit about it. The guy's got big hands. He has long arms. He's exactly what you look for in a receiving tight end. But you know what? You know what impressed me the most about Tyler Eifert? His ability to run block. He was very, I would think, above average when it came to run blocking, which you don't see out of tight ends these days. I really liked his ability to run block. Now, sure, does he have room to improve? Absolutely. But he has some ability to run block, which is good. I mean, he's not going to be Heath Miller, but I don't think he's exactly going to be Jimmy Graham either. I think he has the ability not only in the passing game, but he can play very well in the running game. I saw that on tape for Notre Dame, especially when they played BYU and USC. He's going to be a great player, I think, at the next level. The offense had great trust in Tyler Eifert, and you got to like what you see from this kid. Be a big-time player.
I think he's going to be a great 1-2 hookup with Ben Roethlisberger, no doubt, and I think he's going to open up the Steelers'
might go
offense.
6 overall to Cleveland. There's that rumor floating around,
It might be
too.
a little high, tight end going
but
6.
I don't know.
It's not Kellen Winslow.
But I wouldn't be shocked.
Wouldn't be shocked by anything in this draft.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's great overall about the NFL draft, as we've seen in years past, but especially with this year, because you really don't know, as we talked about all show, who's going to go where, or even if teams are going to stay in their respective spots, especially in the top 5. So, Alex, what are your final thoughts?
Just a couple things. With Nassib, I think you guys are a little too anti-Ryan Nassib. I think there is a lot to like. I think you guys may be painting a little too harshly with him. I think he is accurate at times. I think it is inconsistent. I think the big things with him is some of the arm mechanics, some of the lower half mechanics, and he also ball placement is another big thing with him. He struggles to leave receivers open, struggles to throw receivers open as well. I think it's a big thing. But I think there is a lot to work with there. He's a smart kid, good velocity on his passes. There is a lot to like there with Ryan Nassib. Another guy I kind of liked that we didn't get a chance to talk about was Marcus Hunt out of SMU. And I don't know how I really feel about this guy. He's 6'8" and an 277 defensive end out of Southern Methodist. 82-inch wingspan. Not the greatest athlete in the world, but he was just extremely productive. Had 17 block kicks in his full-year career. He's a heck of a player. I'm not sure where he's going to fit. Could even move to tight end like his fellow SMU defensive end last year, Taylor Thompson. So I'm just interested to see what happens with Marcus Hunt. That's a name to keep your ear out for. Maybe late first, early second, where I'm hearing where he'll go.
Right, I hear what you're saying about Nassib. Obviously, Ian and I have given our thoughts about this.
You have.
I think
don't hate him.
It sounded.
He's not a first-round pick.
I think the one positive, though, about Ryan Nassib, if he gets picked by the Bills, going to his former head coach to kind of keep working on things, kind of pick up right where they left off when they were at Syracuse. I think that'd be a big plus for Ryan Nassib going to the Buffalo. Guys, any other final thought? What are some plans real quick for you guys for the NFL draft? I know you're very excited. Alex is going to have all of his papers lined out
like
in front of the TV like he does right now. I'm sure he'll be the same thing. I probably will too. You know,
I'll be spending it with you, so I don't know how I feel about that.
I think you'll enjoy it.
It's your opinion.
I might lock myself in my room.
Gotta love those.
I don't have anyone to root for this year. I don't have Don Barkley to root for this year, so it's going to be
interesting. That's true. Ian's had a couple of local classmates.
I don't have Dale Moss to talk about either, which Alex is very thankful
Dale
for.
Moss. Well, you just stopped talking. You were talking all about the draft show last year. I never heard another word about Dale Moss.
Nope.
The rest of the year.
They didn't make the team.
You have a Dale Moss for this year? Is there any at least small school?
I didn't pick up it. Well, you could talk about Cal's.
Yeah, Rontez Miles.
Rontez Miles might get picked up.
I think he will get drafted. Maybe 5th, 6th round. We're looking for Rontez Miles.
Keep a lookout for him, PSAC product out of California University. Well, that's going to do it for this year's edition of CU Countdown NFL Draft Special. We thank you for tuning in. We thank for all of our crew for staying an extra half hour. I know they hate us for this, but you know this is one of our biggest passions, one of the best times of the sports year, and we wanted to bring it in just for you and our viewers here around the Clarion University area. So for all of our crew here at CU TV, and for Ian Hunter and for Alex Kozora, I'm Matt Catrillo. Enjoy NFL Draft Weekend.
I know I'm going.